We're back with more of the Arduin Grimoire. I thought today I would look at what is literally the second page of the book, but is also super interesting, the experience point system, which they're calling simply point system. In the Arduin universe, the ability to advance to higher levels is based on earned merit and not on the acquisition of treasure. Therefore, points are given for many reasons, but not for gold or other treasure. After all, it is the act of robbery, not the amount stolen, that gives the thief his experience. The following chart is a guideline, not a firm law, for each situation is different and meriting individual adjudication. Now we have a grand table after that introduction, which itself is interesting because remember, this was written in the heart of the, I guess, first into second phase of the D&D system, in which the main way of experience points was from the beginning and still at this time for treasure. So here, David Hargrave is setting Arduin Grimoire apart by finding a different method, saying, nope, we're not going to do XP for gold. We're going to do something else. And as we can see here, it is not the system that we get from later editions of AD&D and D&D, which ties experience more or less to murder and killing of monsters. I'm going to actually start at the bottom of the table rather than the top, since it gives the highest numbers at the top and then the lowest numbers at the bottom. I think it might be more fun to go in the inverse order. So that's what I'm going to do. We don't know also how much experience per level yet. So, for example, the smallest amount is 50. Is that a little bit? Is it a lot? Can't yet say. However, 50 points, experience points, for figuring out a trap, tripping one and taking damage, all lesser spell use, locks, knocks, wins, going over half damage, doing extra dangerous and uncalled for acts, checking for secret places when you know there are traps, etc. This right off the bat is just fascinating because it's basically saying you're going to get XP for just doing the things that you do. And note here in particular, it doesn't matter whether you're successful or not. It's either, oh, you figured out a trap, or you tripped it, or you did some damage, or you took some damage. You found some things. I just love the just doing extra dangerous and uncalled for acts. Hey, you're in a dungeon, you take a chance. This is really cool because it really is that rewarding of taking a chance. Taking a chance, win or lose, the minimum you're going to get for it is 50 experience points. I'm fascinated by that, and I love that right off the bat. So you get 75 experience for being a rear guard with an asterisk footnote that says means up to third level, fourth gets half above 0, and also doing simple detection spells. I like the idea of rewarding someone for doing the rear guard because that's kind of a boring job. Usually the action comes from the front. I always like to mix things up and having action coming from all kinds of different directions, which puts more emphasis on that rear guard, but oftentimes you're entering new places, you're pushing forward, the things coming in front of you, somebody's got to be in the back. Usually means they're last to the interesting stuff. So here you're saying, look, I'm going to throw you a little bone. If you're in that rear guard, get some extra experience points. Interesting here that theoretically, if I'm reading this correctly, this goes down, and after fourth level, you just basically get nothing for being the rear guard, which is an interesting choice. And I like just doing detection spells. Here, you're going to be doing the kind of spells that aren't necessarily fun and exciting. We want to reward you for doing things like casting detect magic instead of holding on to cast sleep. We'll give you some experience points. You get 100 experience points for being expedition leader, coming within 1 point of dying, acquiring potions, 100 points per dose, scrolls, 100 points per level per use, and for doing spells like create food and water, mass invisibility, etc. I'm really digging this experience points because it's really rewarding all this sort of little work, all these things that are not fun, that you might want to skip over, gloss over. But here they're saying, no, I'm going to give you points for it. You're taking the kind of lead point in the expedition. I'm going to give you some points for it. You are collecting scrolls and potions. I'm going to give you points for it. You're coming close to dying. Hey, you're that fighter and you're up front and you're just taking a beating after beating. I'm going to give you points for doing it. In fact, I'm giving you points for getting really super close to dying. And then using your utility spells or using spells that benefit the whole party. I'm going to cast mass invisibility, you get some points. I'm going to cast create food and water, you get some points. Which I think, given that I'm assuming this is player facing, I would certainly hand this out to my players. gives them even more incentive for picking some of the spells, some of the powers that they might have, or some of their abilities using them that they might not. That they might say, "Oh, I don't want to take that. What a chumpy spell. I want to take this fireball spell or whatnot." But there's merit here in taking those spells just beyond their utility in the game. You're getting experience for it. 125 experience points for acquiring a single or limited use item, single shot, spell storing rings, etc. +1 items, doing spells like Wizard Eye, or throwing a thunderbolt that kills the BEM just in time to save the party. Oh, that's another great one. I imagine that it doesn't have to be a literal thunderbolt, though there might be a thunderbolt spell. But the idea of making a just in time save. In fact, I would probably extend that and say it's not even just if you kill the, I'm guessing BEM stands for big evil monster. We would say BBEG. That's kind of what we use now, but I kind of like BEM. This idea of taking an action to save the party, and the fact that you get some experience points for getting magical weapons. Now, I usually play that you don't get the treasure value for a magical item in terms of when I play BX, because the item itself is the reward. I'm not going to let you double dip. I have a magic one sword that makes me better at fighting things, and you get experience on top of it. But I do like this kind of flat experience points. So you're not going to get 5,000 experience points because it's worth 5,000 gold pieces, but I'll give you something for making that discovery. 150 experience points for being point man, which also diminishes. It's got that same asterisk footnote. For being point man, acquiring +2 items, lesser rings, amulets, etc. Doing spells like Dimension Door, deactivate traps, polymorph self, and the like. I've already said a bunch of good stuff, and it's just it's just staying as good as the other ones were, so I don't have any particular comments about these. I just love the way these are just being positioned. 175 experience for acquiring +3 items, wands, most rings, and amulets, and doing spells such as transmuting rock to mud, monster summoning, and the like. 200 experience points for acquiring items that are +4, magical items that are unusual, wands of wizardry, slaver's lash, etc. Doing difficult spells like limited wishes, all psychically draining ones like ESP, and the like. 225 experience for acquiring most stabs, major rods, lordly might, using a single wish, acquiring +5 weapons or armor, and doing heavy magic spells, windwalk, phase door, cure disease, raising the dead, regenerate mana points or limbs, etc. 250 experience points for being cursed, acquiring a cursed item, dying but being regenerated back to life, using spells of major magical import such as astral body, teleporting, prismatic wall, etc. The big thing here is you get a lot of points for dying and coming back, which is kind of cool. I think again, it's rewarding taking those risks, rewarding doing things that are dangerous. If you're doing things that are dangerous, and we're trying to encourage you with this experience point system to do those things, then we have to live with the fact that it may turn out poorly for us. So saying that, hey, if you can get close to dying, we'll reward you. If you die and manage to get back, we'll reward you. Also really good. And doing things like picking up items that are cursed and being cursed gives you experience points. Those things are usually major downers, major things that have a negative impact, and they probably still do. Having those curses isn't fun, but the idea that you actually get some experience out of it is gonna soften the blow a little bit, and it's also going to encourage you to take chances. Whereas in a BX game, someone might do everything they can not to touch something before you figure out exactly what it does. In this game, because you might be getting some experience for it, maybe you think, well, I'll take the chance because maybe I'll get cursed and that'll stink, but I'm going to get 500 experience points out of it, or whatever it is. In this case, it's 250 experience points. You get 275 experience points for doing spells of tremendous magical import, the conjuring of a major demon, using a gate spell, raising the dead fully, and the like. 300 points for acquiring a major artifact, such as a machine gun, explosives, staffs of black wizardry, wish rings with more than 5 wishes, etc. 325 points for defeating in single combat any creature that is 4 times your size or is 20 hit dice or larger, whichever is greater. That is almost your tailor-made if you're a fighter or paladin or some kind of martial class. It's that classic go to the cave all by yourself on your steed and challenge the dragon to single combat. If you win, whatever else you get, you're going to get some experience points. Now, I don't know if this is this number, because we don't know the scale yet, if this number means it's something that's worthwhile or something that you go, well, yeah, great, but I'm never going to do that because I can go ahead and do a lot of other things to get experience points before I have to try to scale that one up. And of course, we can remember this is just a guideline, so we can amend these as we see fit. But it's cool that there's a specific entry here for that classic trope of the chivalric, heroic knight walking up to some monster all alone, preparing to do martial combat with it one on one. What else do we have here? 350 experience points, defeat in single combat demigods or major demons above and beyond the normal points. Well, I guess the one thing we can say about this is presumably at some high level, I imagine, you can actually challenge demigods and major demons and potentially win. Again, single combat by yourself. 375 experience points for being a sole survivor of an expedition, acquiring the mightiest of artifacts, Satan's own pitchfork, nuclear weapons, phasers, etc. I love that they're throwing in this total time machine sort of sci-fi barrier peaks kind of stuff in here. Oh, if you happen to find a phaser, but this one I think is key. Being the sole survivor of an expedition. Hey, you want to get out, escape. Don't go down with the ship because if you escape, you're going to get 375 experience points. And I've been that lone survivor, and I didn't get a particular reward for it. Would have been nice, but I didn't need it. But just one more reason maybe to look at it and say, hey, you know what? If I can escape this situation and everyone else has gone down, instead of me just running in and saying, oh, well, everyone's gone down, so I'm going to go down with them. If I can manage to survive, even if nothing else, I just able to crawl back to our nearest settlement or wherever's safe, some place of safety. I'm going to get some experience points for that travail, which is I think is a good thing to do. And then finally, 400 points for death with a successful revival, reincarnation, curse changed into another type of entity, etc. These things are taking things that are either misfortunes, mixed blessings, utility type work, some of the grunt work, and they're giving you experience points for it. The most points you can get in any single thing is coming back from the dead, which is a neat idea. Now, how we don't know yet from the system, is it going to be something that you're going to be able to do often? How easy is it to come back from the dead? And we also don't really have an idea of the scale. I will look just briefly at this experience level chart. This one is for, okay, it's got a whole bunch of, bunch of stuff here. I'm going to look at just second level. And there's a whole bunch of classes here. Thief, Slayer, Techno, Courtesan, Assassin, Alchemist, Runeweaver, Saint, and then all Outlaws. We will look at these, at least some of them, probably in great detail on our way. But just, for example, to get the second level, the Thief, which is the class tied with the Saint as needing the least amount of experience, needs 1,750. So they're going to have to, using this chart, they're going to have to do a bunch of this. If they're just doing their kind of thiefly stuff, figuring out traps, tripping over, taking damage, all that stuff, they have to do that a few times. They have to do that at least 30 plus times, right? 500 times 3, 1,500 plus some change, maybe doing some of these other things. So none of these are super big points. Even coming back from the dead, it's only 400 points. It's not even going to get you, it's maybe going to get you close to what, a third of the way, or a little bit less than a third of the way to second level. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this develops. But really super fun to read that list. I'm curious, what do you guys think about it? What do you folks out there think about this kind of experience point system? I could see even using this in a game, even if I didn't want to give up my XP for gold, for treasure. I would really see giving these. Now, I obviously, if I was converting these to D&D or your kind of OSR version, BX based D&D, might need to play with these numbers a bit. I don't know that I would want to use them straight out of the box. But I think these are a really good basis for things you could do. And I think what you could do is even customize these. What would be cool is if you could have these on a class basis. Take a thief and then rewrite these somewhat and put them in the thieves' terms. If you're a fighter, what does this look like for a fighter? Some of these are going to match because they already kind of have sort of fighterly tasks. But what would it look like if all of these were fightery? And maybe not even instead of this generic one, but in addition to. What are some things that you might think fighters could do to earn experience? And I would, for myself, what I like about this is, other than a few exceptions, it's not combat stuff. This is not go in and fight a bunch of stuff. Yes, they have a couple of them, but you're fighting demigods and major demons and the like, and super powerful monsters. Other than that, which is cool because those are really event combats. Single combat, going in and doing it. That's an event. I could see rewarding that if you're going to take on that, what I imagine is a huge risk. Other than that, it's a lot of other things. So I would think about, if you're a fighter, what kind of stuff matches up with a fighter class in your campaign world, in your setting, that's not combat oriented. Stuff like taking the rear guard, maybe, I don't know, It could be campaign related stuff like, well, what if you swear allegiance to a lord? Maybe that gets you some experience. What if you get knighted? What if you get your stronghold? What if you do these things? You can really think about how do I want fighters? What do I want fighters to be doing, especially outside of combat, and I can reward them for that. And of course, you can think about this for any specific class. What do I want magic users, clerics, any custom races I have or custom classes I have? You could even have them for species. Hey, if you're an elf and you get to visit certain amount of forests, you're doing the kind of forest elf archetype. Maybe you could have elf stuff for experienced dwarves. If you find a vein of mithril underground, that gets you some experience. If you have or you're able to own a piece of adamantine material of some sort, doesn't even matter what it is, you get that. If you can find some particular gems, again, I'm going with the common stereotypes slash tropes, but just so I hope you get my idea, how you could really come up with a whole bunch of these lists. Then you can give these to your players, and your players can start to think about, well, what do I want to do? Because I'm all about that sandbox open world. Let's figure out as a table what we want to do. This gives your players all kinds of ideas what to do, and even more so, take this another level. Look at the backstories, backgrounds of your characters, and you can think about, okay, these are the things my character wants to accomplish and who they want to be. Now I can say as a GM, all right, I might not want to give you individual events. I don't want to do the rescue your sister, get 1,000 experience points, or maybe I do, but I might think, okay, you want to be, who do you want to be? You see yourself as this Batman. I take the law into my own hands, but I'm sort of fighting for good. Then here are the things that Batman does, and these are the things that I will give you rewards for. Of course, you can come up with kind of more narrative, story arc, player backstory, goals arc concepts as well. You can really do whatever you want, but it really is fascinating. I hope you can tell it's giving me just tons of ideas. I can't wait to get further in the book, but this is all I got for now. Game on, and I will talk to you later.